Do you still remember Sanford and Son? The show that made America laugh with its sharp-tongued humor, constant arguments, and unforgettable father-son bond. But behind the studio lights, those laughs were bought with pain, addiction, bankruptcy, and deaths that left fans in shock. Let's uncover the truth behind the scenes and honor the legacy they left behind. Red Foxx as Fred G. Sanford. Red Foxx, born John Elroy Sanford on December 9, 1922 in St. Louis, Missouri. At 50 years old, he played Fred G. Sanford, the loud-mouthed but lovable junk dealer who turned grumbling into an art form. His portrayal of the cranky old man with a golden heart made millions of Americans laugh every Friday night. But when the studio lights faded, Foxx's laughter slowly turned into sighs. His career after Sanford and Son never reached the same heights. Shows like The Red Fox Show and The Royal Family fizzled out after only a few seasons. As the fame faded, he fell into drinking and drug use, while his fortune vanished due to reckless spending and overwhelming tax debt. The IRS raided his home, seizing everything, leaving a man who had once earned millions completely broke. His 4 marriages were a chain of heartbreaks. His first wife left quietly, the second took him to court over money, the third sued him back for emotional abuse, and the last, Ka Ho Cho, stayed with him until the end, witnessing his decline in both health and spirit. Stress, addiction, and isolation took their toll. At the time of his death, his net worth was negative $3.5 million, the weight of a fallen legend. On October 11, 1991, while rehearsing for the royal family, Red Foxx collapsed from a real heart attack, a tragic irony after years of faking one as a gag on the show. He died at 68. Eddie Murphy paid for all funeral expenses, and Foxx was laid to rest at Palm Memorial Park in Las Vegas. Demond Wilson as Lamont Sanford. Demond Wilson was born on October 13, 1946, in Valdosta, Georgia. At 26 years old, he played Lamont Sanford, the hot-tempered yet intelligent son who constantly had to deal with his irritable father, Fred, on Sanford and Son in 1972. Thanks to his natural acting and chemistry with Red Foxx, Wilson became one of the most recognizable faces on American television in the 1970s. But after the series ended, Wilson quickly discovered that Hollywood rarely forgives those who are someone's son. Later projects such as Baby, I'm Back, and The New Odd Couple failed, and his fame faded. He spiraled into addiction, lost direction, and fell into depression. The pressure of being forgotten made him consider giving up entirely. In the 1980s, after his first marriage collapsed, Wilson turned to faith as his final refuge. He quit drugs, studied theology, and became a minister in the evangelical church. In his memoir, Second Banana, he wrote, "I lost everything, fame, money, love, just to gain true peace." Through faith, he rebuilt his life, found balance, and devoted himself to charity. Today, at 79 years old, Demond Wilson still lives in California with his wife and 6 children. He preaches, writes books, and occasionally attends memorials for his old castmates. With an estimated net worth of $2.5 million, mostly from royalties and religious writings, he has lived a life much like his character, one of humility, redemption, and quiet strength. LaWanda Page as Aunt Esther Anderson. LaWanda Page was born on October 19, 1920, in Cleveland, Ohio. At 52 years old, she joined Sanford and Son, 1972, as Esther Anderson, Aunt Esther, the Bible-wielding, sharp-tongued, and fiercely religious aunt who constantly scolded Fred Sanford for his earthly sins. With her fierce delivery, sharp wit, and heartfelt humanity, LaWanda turned Aunt Esther into an iconic figure of 1970s black television. When the laughter faded, LaWanda's real life became a series of long, lonely nights. After the show ended, she tried to cling to her career with small roles in Sanford Arms, 1977, and Steppin' Out, 1979. But her spotlight had dimmed. The showbiz world she once dreamed of now turned its back, drowning her in prejudice and harsh discrimination. LaWanda's love life was equally turbulent. She married for the first time at just 14 years old to John Peel, an older, violent man. The marriage left her with deep emotional and physical scars. Her second husband abandoned her after only a few years, leaving her to raise their young daughter alone. Her final marriage, which she hoped would bring peace, ended quietly in separation. Over time, her relationship with her daughter Clara, a Christian minister, also grew distant due to differing lifestyles and values. On September 14, 2002, LaWanda Page died in Los Angeles from complications related to diabetes at the age of 81. She was laid to rest at Inglewood Park Cemetery alongside fellow artists of her era. Her estimated net worth at the time of her death was around $500,000, a modest reward for 6 decades of laughter, struggle, and grace. Don Bexley as Bubba Bexley. Don Bexley was born on March 10, 1910, in Jamestown, Virginia. At 62 years old, he joined Sanford and Son, 1972, as Bubba Bexley, Fred Sanford's loyal yet clumsy friend. With his raspy voice, warm smile, and awkward charm, Bubba brought warmth and humor to every scene, becoming one of the show's most beloved supporting characters throughout the 1970s. But behind the laughter lay years of hardship. His career never escaped the overwhelming shadow of Sanford and Son. Roles in What's Happening, and vibes kept him visible but couldn't restore his fame. Bexley went through serious financial troubles as small residual checks barely covered his bills, while aging took a toll on his body. In later years, he suffered from heart and kidney disease but continued writing scripts, clinging to the hope of returning to the stage one day. Behind the scenes, Don's marriage was a quiet tragedy. He married Ruth in 1942, a former nightclub dancer, and they had 3 children. As his career faltered, money and frustration led to constant arguments. Ruth endured for years while Don chased gigs, desperate to save his reputation. After more than 2 decades, they separated quietly, leaving wounds that never healed. He married twice more, to Jillian, then Patricia, but both unions lasted only months. As he grew older, loneliness weighed heavily on the man who had once made millions laugh. On April 15, 1997, Don Bexley passed away in Hampton, Virginia, at age 87 from heart and kidney failure. He left behind an estimated net worth of $300,000, mostly from television roles and his final performance contracts. Whitman Mayo as Grady Wilson. Whitman Mayo was born on November 15, 1930 in New York City. At 42 years old, he played Grady Wilson in Sanford and Son, 1972. Fred Sanford's kind but forgetful old friend, known for his trademark line, "Good goobly goop." With his natural and lovable performance, Grady became one of the show's most beloved side characters, and Mayo quickly won over audiences across America. That success, however, became both a blessing and a burden. Mayo was given his own spin-off series, Grady, 1975 to 1976, but after only a few episodes, the show was canceled due to low ratings. Later appearances in Helltown and Boys and the Hood couldn't revive his fading fame. Financial pressure and disappointment led him into a spiral of heavy smoking, sleepless nights, and chronic stress. His health deteriorated, heart problems emerged, yet he kept working tirelessly just to pay off his debts. Mayo's personal life was no less turbulent. He went through 3 marriages, to Melva Washington, Patricia York, and Gail Reed. His first marriage ended in divorce while he was still struggling to establish himself as an actor. The second fell apart after 8 years under the weight of financial hardship. It was only when he met Gail Reed, who stayed with him until the end, that he finally found peace. Still, his greatest regret was the distance between himself and his children, especially during the years when he couldn't support them financially. Despite that, he remained proud of his son, Ron Mayo, who later became a respected politician, carrying on his father's name in a different way. On May 22, 2001, Whitman Mayo passed away from a heart attack at Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta at the age of 70. His estimated net worth at the time of his death was around $1 million, earned mainly from teaching and television appearances. Hal Williams as Officer Smitty Smith. Hal Williams was born on December 14, 1938, in Columbus, Ohio. He joined Sanford and Son in 1972 at the age of 34, playing Officer Smitty, the firm but good-natured policeman who often found himself tangled in Fred and Lamont's hilarious mischief. Smitty brought a touch of balance and reason to the chaos, making him a steady presence throughout the show. Following his success on Sanford and Son, Hal Williams continued to build his career with standout roles such as Lester Jenkins in the hit sitcom 227, 1985 to 1990, and appearances in Private Benjamin alongside Goldie Hawn. Although he never won major awards, he remained a familiar and respected face on American television for over 3 decades. Behind the screen, however, he faced years of financial hardship. His career was steady, but never lucrative, forcing him to take additional work in voice acting and commercials to make ends meet. In his personal life, Williams married twice, first to Gay Anderson and later to Dr. Renee Himes. The first marriage ended quickly, but his second wife stood by him through his toughest professional years before they divorced in 1984. He admitted that work pressure and financial strain had driven them apart. Nevertheless, the two stayed on good terms and occasionally appeared together at charity events. Having no children from either marriage, Williams devoted his love to acting, calling it the biggest family I've ever had. Now, at 87 years old, Hal Williams remains in good health and lives a quiet life in California. He occasionally appears in interviews and retrospectives about Sanford and Son, sharing memories with longtime fans. His current estimated net worth is around $1 million, mostly from royalties and his long career in television. Nathaniel Taylor as Rollo Lawson. Nathaniel Taylor was born on March 31, 1938, in St. Louis, Missouri. At 34 years old, he played Rollo Lawson, the smooth-talking, mischievous best friend who constantly dragged Lamont into trouble in Sanford and Son in 1972. Taylor's charm and comic timing turned Rollo into one of the show's most unforgettable side characters, an essential part of its soul. But when the series ended, Taylor's life took a difficult turn. He appeared in the Red Fox Show, 1977, and Passing Through, 1977. But the magic never returned. Producers continued to see him only as Rollo, not as a serious actor. As opportunities dried up, Taylor sank into addiction, debt, and scandal. In 1986, he was arrested for theft, a devastating blow that destroyed what remained of his reputation. The years of turmoil weakened his body, and heart problems followed soon after. Taylor's personal life was equally turbulent. He married multiple times, including a long marriage to Loretta Taylor, with whom he raised 7 children. Behind the smiling family photos were years of arguments, separations, and reconciliations. Addiction and financial instability strained his relationships, and at times, even his children distanced themselves to protect their own peace. In his later years, Taylor tried to redeem himself by opening an acting workshop for youth in Los Angeles, hoping to help others find stability on the stage that had once saved him. On February 27, 2019, Nathaniel Taylor passed away from heart failure at Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center, aged 80. His funeral, organized by his wife and 7 children, was warm and intimate. The family's farewell read, "You made the world laugh. Now it's time to rest." His net worth at the time of death was around $300,000, but his real legacy lived on in the memory of Rollo, a character both funny and tragically human. Howard Platt, as Officer Hoppy Hopkins. Howard Platt was born on June 5, 1938, in Chicago, Illinois. At 34 years old, he brought to life Officer Hoppy Hopkins on Sanford and Son, 1972, the awkward yet lovable white police officer and partner to Smitty. Hoppy's innocent humor and open heart provided a rare sense of unity between two communities at a time when America was still deeply divided by race. After his success on the show, Platt continued to appear in television and film, including Nixon, 1995, and The Rock, 1996. Though he never received major awards, he became one of the most recognizable supporting faces on American TV for more than 30 years. Yet behind his cheerful screen presence lay years of emotional struggle. 2 failed marriages, first to Alice Maroug, 1969 to 1978, and later to Gloria Parker, left deep emotional scars. Loneliness, stress, and a stagnating career pushed him toward the theater, where he found solace in live performance. Despite setbacks, Platt never stopped creating. After stepping away from Hollywood, he turned to directing and songwriting, even composing River Winds for the film La Salle, Expedition 2, 1977. He lived quietly, avoiding the spotlight and dedicating himself to teaching acting to young performers. Now, at 87 years old, Howard Platt still lives in Illinois. He occasionally attends fan conventions for Sanford and Son, greeting audiences with the same warmth that made Hoppy beloved. Living simply on royalties and small investments, he has an estimated net worth of about $1 million. When asked about his legacy, he smiled and said, "If Hoppy can still make someone laugh today, then I'm still alive." Gregory Sierra as Julio Fuentes. Gregory Sierra was born on January 25, 1937, in Manhattan, New York. When he joined Sanford and Son in 1972 at the age of 35, he portrayed Julio Fuentes, the optimistic, polite Puerto Rican neighbor who often became the target of Fred Sanford's sharp-tongued jokes. With his charming performance and soulful eyes, Sierra made audiences both laugh and sympathize with Julio, turning the character into one of the show's most memorable presences. But behind the laughter lay a turbulent journey. After Sanford and Son, Gregory Sierra went on to appear in Barney Miller, 1975 to 1982, and Hill Street Blues, 1981, earning an Emmy nomination. Yet despite his undeniable talent, Hollywood typecast him as the fiery Latin or the criminal, limiting his opportunities and stalling his career. Frustration, loneliness, and the feeling of rejection eventually drove him away from the spotlight. He retreated into a quiet life in California, where emotional stress and erratic habits slowly took a toll on his health, paving the way for cancer to set in. His personal life was marked by sorrow. Sierra married twice, first to Eileen DeFelitta in 1969, and then to Susan Pollack in 1976. But both marriages ended tragically. The first dissolved quietly, while the second ended in heartbreak when his wife took her own life just 2 years after their wedding. The loss devastated Sierra. He withdrew from public life, rarely gave interviews, and only took on a few small roles. When stomach and liver cancer returned years later, he refused aggressive treatment, choosing peace over pain. On January 4, 2021, Gregory Sierra passed away in Laguna Woods, California, at the age of 83. He died in the arms of his final wife, Helene Tabor, after a long battle with cancer. His estimated net worth was around $2 million, but his true legacy lives on through Julio Fuentes, the kind, funny, and big-hearted man who continues to make audiences smile decades later. Lynn Hamilton as Donna Harris. Lynn Hamilton was born on April 25, 1930, in Yazoo City, Mississippi. At 42 years old, she joined Sanford and Son, 1972, as Donna Harris, the gentle nurse who softened Fred Sanford's gruff heart and brought rare moments of romance to the classic sitcom. Donna was more than just a love interest. She was the light in Fred's cynical world. With her warmth, poise, and quiet intelligence, Lynn Hamilton gave the character depth and soul. Following the show's success, Hamilton went on to appear in The Waltons, 1973 to 1981, and Roots, The Next Generations, 1979. Though she never received major awards, she earned respect for her composure and dedication to her craft. Still, behind her calm demeanor were years of loneliness and disappointment. When Sanford returned in 1980 without inviting her back, Hamilton was devastated, calling it a professional wound I could never forget. In real life, Lynn found a kind of enduring love rarely seen in Hollywood. She married poet and playwright Frank Jenkins in 1964, and the two remained together for 49 years until his passing in 2014. He was her partner, mentor, and emotional anchor through every setback. The couple had 2 children, and Hamilton often said that family love kept her standing when the industry turned its back. After her husband's death, she lived quietly in Chicago, writing her memoir and devoting her time to church and charity work. On June 19, 2025, Lynn Hamilton passed away peacefully in her sleep at her Chicago home, surrounded by her children and grandchildren. She was 95 years old. Her estimated net worth was $4 million, much of which was left to a foundation she created to support aging actresses. Her life ended gently, a fitting close for a woman who spent decades bringing grace and compassion to the screen. Raymond Allen as Uncle Woody Anderson. Raymond Allen was born on March 5, 1929, in Kansas City, Missouri. When he joined Sanford and Son in 1972 at the age of 43, he portrayed Woodrow Uncle Woody Anderson, the good-natured but perpetually tipsy husband of Aunt Esther. With his bewildered gaze and trembling voice, Allen turned Woody into a symbol of human fragility amid the loud, chaotic world of the Sanford household. Behind that charming performance, however, was a harsh reality. After Sanford and Son, Allen continued writing scripts and made guest appearances on Good Times, 1974 to 1979, even earning a Writers Guild of America Award nomination for co-writing an episode. Yet his career faded quickly due to chronic health issues and long-term alcoholism. As Hollywood evolved, he was left behind. In his later years, he survived by attending small conventions and fan events, signing autographs for those who still remembered him. Allen's personal life was just as turbulent. He married Barbara Williams in 1963, and together they had 3 children, including daughter Terrence Allen, who also became an actress. But the marriage collapsed in 1977. Afterward, he fell into depression and isolation, seeking solace in alcohol. Years of heavy drinking took their toll, leading to respiratory failure and fragile health. On August 10, 2020, Raymond Allen passed away in California at the age of 91 due to respiratory failure. His daughter confirmed the news on social media, leaving fans stunned. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at around $500,000, a modest sum for a man who once made millions laugh. Pat Morita as Ah Chu. Pat Morita was born on June 28, 1932, in Ileton, California. At 40 years old, he played Ah Chu, the friendly, quick-witted Asian neighbor whose sharp humor often left Fred Sanford speechless in Sanford and Son in 1972. At a time when America still struggled with racial stereotypes, Morita's character broke barriers, offering an image of warmth, intelligence, and comedic timing that resonated across cultures. After Sanford and Son, Morita rose to stardom with Happy Days, 1974 to 1984, and most famously, The Karate Kid, 1984, where his portrayal of Mr. Miyagi earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. But behind the fame lay deep, personal battles. 2 failed marriages and the crushing weight of celebrity led him into alcoholism. In his later years, he struggled with addiction and kidney disease, yet continued to work, voicing the Chinese emperor in Mulan, 1998, and receiving a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1994. Off-screen, Morita remained a lonely figure. His marriages to Kathleen Yamachi and Evelyn Guerrero both ended in heartbreak, though Evelyn stayed by his side the longest. Toward the end of his life, Pat often secluded himself in his Las Vegas apartment, writing an unfinished script about an aging Japanese actor forgotten by Hollywood, a reflection of his own life. Sadly, Pat Morita died on November 24, 2005, in Las Vegas at the age of 73 from kidney failure. He was cremated at Palm Green Valley, where friends placed a small bonsai tree beside his urn, a living tribute to the spirit of Mr. Miyagi. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at around $5 million, much of it left to foundations supporting Asian American actors. Slappy White as Melvin. Slappy White was born on September 20, 1921 in Baltimore, Maryland. At 51 years old, he appeared in Sanford and Son, 1972, as Melvin, Fred Sanford's loud-mouthed yet hilarious friend. With his sharp timing, effortless stage presence, and natural charm as a seasoned performer, Slappy turned Melvin into one of the show's most likable supporting characters. Yet behind those smiling eyes lay a life far from glamorous. Before fame, White toured across the Chitlin circuit alongside Red Foxx, the very man who later invited him onto Sanford and Son. After the show, he continued performing stand-up comedy and appeared in films like Amazon Women on the Moon, 1987, and Mr. Saturday Night, 1992, but the glory of his prime years had faded. By the 1990s, newer audiences no longer connected with his sharp, socially conscious humor. White's romantic life was filled with heartbreak. He married two legendary singers, Laverne Baker and Pearl Bailey, but both marriages ended in divorce due to career conflicts and distance. Afterward, he sank into alcohol to ease the pain, even as he continued performing in Las Vegas nightclubs to small but loyal crowds. Years of stress and drinking eventually weakened his heart. On November 7, 1995, Slappy White died of a heart attack in Brigantine, New Jersey, at the age of 74, just 1 month after the death of his close friend, comedian George Kirby. His net worth was estimated at around $300,000, but his true legacy was far richer. A fearless comedian who used laughter to talk about equality and found humor even in life's deepest sorrows. Marlene Clark as Janet Lawson. Marlene Clark was born on December 19, 1937, in New York. At 35, she joined Sanford and Son, 1972, as Janet Lawson, Lamont Sanford's elegant, intelligent, and warm-hearted girlfriend. More than just a romantic figure, Janet became a symbol of Black sophistication and strength during a time when Hollywood offered few such roles for women of color. After the show, Marlene Clark gained acclaim for her performance in the art horror classic Ganja and Hess, 1973, along with roles in Slaughter, 1972, and The Beast Must Die, 1974. She later became recognized as one of the pioneering faces of the blaxploitation movement. Yet fame did not bring her peace. Following her breakup with actor Billy D. Williams in 1971, Clark fell into isolation and emotional turmoil. Once celebrated as the Queen beside Billy D. Williams, she found that his rising success ultimately broke their marriage apart. After their divorce, Clark never remarried. Instead, she lived quietly in Los Angeles, working as a painter and running a small restaurant that served young artists and musicians. In her later years, her health declined, but she remained proud and independent. On May 18, 2023, Marlene Clark passed away in California at the age of 85 from natural causes. Coincidentally, the same day her Slaughter co-star Jim Brown died, as if fate had written a poetic final chapter. Her funeral was intimate, attended by a few close friends from the arts community. At her death, her net worth was estimated at around $2 million. From fame and laughter to heartbreak and solitude, Sanford and Son left behind stories more human and more tragic than anyone could imagine. Who among them do you think lived the most heartbreaking fate? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories behind television's greatest legends.